You make $34,000 a year. After taxes, that's about $2,340 a month. Rent takes $950 of it. The car payment takes $310. Groceries, gas, phone, insurance, the small unavoidable subscriptions that keep multiplying without your permission. By the time you're done, there is $180 left on a good month, and most months are not good months. You have looked at the finance videos, the ones that say max your 401k, buy real estate, build multiple income streams. You have closed half of them within the first 2 minutes because they are speaking to a person who has $2,000 of discretionary income to play with, and you have $180, and the math they're describing does not seem to apply to you at all. Here is what nobody with a six-figure income wants to tell you, because it sounds almost insulting until you understand why it's true. Your salary is not the reason you're stuck. Your salary is the reason people assume you're stuck, which is a completely different thing. And the difference between those two ideas is worth more than a raise. This is the story of what actually happens when someone earning exactly what you're earning right now decides to stop waiting for the salary to change and starts working with the number that's actually in front of them. By the end of it, the math is going to surprise you. Not because it's complicated, because it isn't. Act 1. The trap of waiting. You have told yourself the same sentence for 2 years. I'll start investing once I make more money. It feels responsible. It feels like patience. It is actually the single most expensive sentence a person on a low income can tell themselves, and nobody stops to explain why. Because explaining why requires admitting that the sentence is not really about money. It's about permission. Somewhere along the way, you absorbed the idea that investing is a thing wealthy people do with their extra money. And since you don't have extra money, the whole category doesn't apply to you yet. You are 26. You work at a distribution center, 12-hour shifts, on your feet the entire time, home too tired most nights to do anything but eat something fast and fall asleep with the TV on. You are not lazy. You are not bad with money in the way people mean when they say that about someone poor. You are exhausted in a specific, compounding way that makes every financial decision feel like one more thing you don't have the energy for. The sentence, "I'll start once I make more," has a hidden mechanism inside it that almost nobody notices until years later. It assumes that the habits required to invest well are habits you'll simply develop later, automatically, once the money shows up. But habits don't work that way. The person who waits for $60,000 a year to start saving 10% has never practiced saving 10%. And when the $60,000 arrives, so does a lifestyle that expands to absorb it, because the muscle that resists that expansion was never built. You watch this happen to a coworker named Devin. Devin gets promoted 18 months after you both start at the warehouse. A supervisor role, $52,000 a year, real money compared to what you're both making now. You are happy for him, genuinely. You also watch over the following year as the new truck payment and the bigger apartment and the string of small justified upgrades absorb almost the entire raise. Devin is not reckless. Devin is doing exactly what a person with no savings habit does when more money arrives, spending it in the shape of the life he felt he'd been missing. 18 months after the promotion, Devin has $340 in a savings account. You, still earning $34,000, have started something different 3 months earlier that Devin does not know about yet. The first rule: the habit matters more than the income. A person who saves 10% of $34,000 has practiced a skill that a person who saves 0% of $52,000 has not. And skills compound the same way money does, quietly, invisibly, and only for the person who actually built them. Act 2. The $23 that changes everything. You open a Roth IRA on a Sunday afternoon, sitting on your bed, phone propped against a pillow. You do not put in $500. You do not put in $150. You put in $23, the number left over after you looked honestly at your month for the first time in longer than you'd like to admit, and found $23 that wasn't going anywhere important. A subscription you forgot you had. A few fewer convenience store stops on the way home from 12-hour shifts. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that required willpower you don't have after standing on concrete for 12 hours. $23 feels almost embarrassing to invest. You nearly don't do it, because some part of you has absorbed the idea that small amounts don't count, that there's no point starting until you can do it properly. You do it anyway, mostly because the alternative, waiting again, has already cost you 2 years, and you're tired of the waiting costing more than the trying ever could. You set up an automatic transfer. $23 every 2 weeks. Time to land the day after your paycheck before you have the chance to see the number and talk yourself out of it. This detail matters more than almost anything else in this story. You did not rely on willpower. You built a system that didn't require you to make the decision twice. 3 months later, the account has $299 in it. Not impressive by any conventional measure. But you check it one Sunday and something happens that surprises you. You feel something you haven't felt about money in longer than you can remember. Not excitement exactly. Something closer to evidence. Proof that the sentence you told yourself for 2 years, "I'll start when I make more," was protecting you from nothing. You could have started at $23 a paycheck the entire time. You increase it to $30 every 2 weeks after your next small raise. Not because you suddenly have more room, because you've started treating the increase the way Devin treated his promotion, except in the opposite direction. Instead of letting the extra money expand your life, you let it expand the habit. The second rule, the amount you start with is almost irrelevant. The habit of automating a percentage, any percentage, even a small, almost embarrassing one, is the entire game. $23 invested consistently for 40 years beats $500 invested inconsistently for 4. Act 3, the skill that costs nothing. 6 months in, you do something that has nothing directly to do with saving and everything to do with the math underneath it. You spend your lunch breaks, 30 minutes, twice a week, sitting in your car in the distribution center parking lot, working through a free online course on inventory management systems, the specific software your warehouse uses badly and inefficiently. You are not doing this because someone told you to. You noticed, months earlier, that the 2 people in the building who understood this software were treated differently than everyone else on the floor, asked for input, pulled into meetings, paid more. This costs you nothing but the 30 minutes you already had. No tuition, no debt, no dramatic life overhaul. Just the decision to spend lunch breaks building something instead of scrolling through something. 4 months later, a shift lead position opens up. You are not the most senior person on the floor. You are the person who, when the new inventory system rolled out badly and half the warehouse was confused, already understood it. Your manager remembers this specifically, by name, when the promotion decision gets made. The new role pays $41,000, a $7,000 raise. Meaningful, real, life-changing in a way that $23 bi-weekly transfers alone could never have been. But here is the part that matters more than the raise itself. Because you had already built the habit of saving a percentage rather than a flat number, the raise didn't get absorbed the way Devin's did. Your automatic transfer, tied to a percentage of your check rather than a fixed dollar amount, adjusted upward on its own. You didn't have to decide to save more. The system you built 8 months earlier did it for you. You are still not making 6 figures. You are not going to be featured in a headline about self-made millionaires, but you have just demonstrated something that most people earning 3 times your salary have never proven to themselves, that you can identify a gap, close it without spending money you don't have, and let the result compound into your existing system automatically. The third rule, the most underpriced investment available to a low-income earner is not a stock or a fund. It is 30 minutes of focused skill building, repeated consistently, aimed at a specific gap your current employer already needs filled. It costs nothing, and it is available to you tonight. Act 4, the year everything got harder. Year 3, your car needs a transmission, $2,200. More money than you have ever spent on a single unexpected thing in your life. You do not have $2,200 sitting free. What you have is $1,400 in a separate account. Not the Roth IRA, a different one, built the same way, automatically. $15 every 2 weeks redirected into an emergency fund the moment your income crossed $41,000. It is not enough to fully cover the repair, but it is enough to keep you from putting the whole thing on a credit card at 24% interest, which is what happened the last time your car broke down, 3 years earlier, before any of this started. You put $1,400 toward the repair from savings. You financed the remaining $800 on a 0% promotional card you'd set up specifically for exactly this kind of situation, paid off in 4 months through a temporary pause on the Roth contribution, a decision that felt uncomfortable in the moment, and was, in every practical sense, correct. The emergency fund existed for exactly this. Using it as intended is not a failure of the plan. It is the plan working. This is the part of the story that doesn't make it into most finance content, because it isn't triumphant. It's just true. Building wealth on a low income does not mean nothing bad ever happens. It means that when something bad happens, you are not starting from zero, and the setback costs you a few months of momentum instead of years of debt. You resume the Roth contribution in month 5. The account, interrupted but not destroyed, continues from where it left off. Nobody is impressed by this. There's no story here that would make a good headline. But it is the actual texture of what building wealth on a low income looks like. Not a straight line, a line with real interruptions that a system, built correctly, absorbs instead of collapsing under. The 4th rule. The emergency fund is not a separate strategy from investing. It is the thing that protects the investing strategy from the ordinary chaos of being a person with a low income and no financial cushion. Build it first, even in small amounts, because the alternative, financing emergencies at 24% interest, is the actual mechanism that keeps people trapped, far more than the size of their paycheck ever was. Act 5. What 6 years actually looks like. You are 32 now. 6 years past the Sunday afternoon you put $23 into an account for the first time. Your salary is $48,000. 2 promotions in, still not remarkable by any conventional measure. Still the kind of number that would get glossed over in most finance content aimed at people with more room to work with. Your Roth IRA has $14,200 in it. Your emergency fund, rebuilt after the transmission and left mostly untouched since, has $4,800. You are not wealthy. You would not describe yourself that way, and neither would anyone looking at your bank statements. But here is the number that matters more than any of the balances. Your savings rate has grown from an embarrassed $23 every 2 weeks to just under 9% of your current income, entirely on autopilot, adjusting upward every time your pay has increased because the system was built to scale with you rather than requiring you to remember to update it. Devin, 6 years later, still works at the warehouse. He got a second promotion somewhere in the middle of those 6 years and makes $61,000 now. More than you. He also has $2,100 in savings total, a car loan he's still paying down, and a specific kind of tiredness around the subject of money that you recognize, because it used to be yours too. Devin is not a cautionary tale. Devin is a genuinely hard-working person who never got the chance to see what you saw in month 3 of your Roth IRA. The specific, quiet proof that small, consistent, automated action produces something real, even on an income that most financial advice implicitly assumes doesn't exist. You did not get here through a dramatic breakthrough. You got here through $23, then $30, then a percentage that adjusted itself upward twice without you having to remember to do it. Through 30 minutes at lunch twice a week, aimed at a specific gap instead of general ambition. Through an emergency fund that absorbed a $2,200 shock instead of turning it into 3 years of credit card debt. None of it required a salary you don't have. All of it required a system you built once, on a Sunday afternoon, sitting on your bed with your phone propped against a pillow, putting in an amount that felt almost too small to matter. The 5th rule. Wealth building on a low income is not about waiting for permission from a bigger paycheck. It is about proving to yourself, at whatever number you're currently earning, that the system works. Because once you've proven that, every future raise becomes fuel for a machine that's already running. Instead of a fresh start you have to build again from nothing. You make $34,000 a year, or something close to it. Maybe less. You have looked at the finance advice built for people with room to spare and felt, correctly, that none of it was really talking to you. It wasn't your fault. Most of it genuinely isn't built for the number you're working with. Here is what actually applies, regardless of the number. Open the account tonight, even if you can only put in $10. Set up the automatic transfer so the decision only has to be made once. Tie it to a percentage, not a flat number, so it grows the moment your income does without requiring you to remember. Spend 30 minutes this week, just 30, building a specific skill your current employer already needs, because the fastest raise available to most low-income earners is not a new job. It's becoming unmistakably useful at the one they already have. Build the emergency fund alongside the investing, not after it, because the thing that keeps people trapped at low incomes is rarely the income itself. It's the 24% interest rate that shows up the first time a transmission fails and there's nothing set aside to meet it. None of this requires the salary to change first. All of it requires starting with the number you actually have, tonight, before the version of you that's been waiting for permission convinces you to wait another year. $23 is not nothing. It has never been nothing. It is the exact amount that, 6 years later, looks like proof that the system was never about the size of the paycheck. It was about whether you started. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.